to articulate their message and together make a toast to the new schemes they're hatching, to the next regime they'll change, to the next nation they'll turn into a bombing range. They hyped it on the radio, newspapers and TV, the anarchists who come and destroy the city, the anarchists who come and the undercover cops, the old Chicago Red Squad and the PSYOPs. It's the cops who bought the petrol, the cops who bought the cans, the cops who brought it home, the cops who made the plan. So they got the terrorists they wanted, now they're doing fine. They got the terrorists and they left the headlines. I wanna know who, I wanna know who, I wanna know who is the terrorist? I wanna know who, I wanna know who, I wanna know who is the terrorist? Meanwhile in Afghanistan, family is dead, wiped out in their sleep as they were lying in their bed, wiped out of existence like so many are each day. This is liberation, so they say. This is liberation, and in case you are unsure, the NSA will tell you if your thoughts might be impure, while the generals fly their Air Force all the way across the ocean, they'll build military bases, drop bombs of all description. But if you drive from Florida to the city of Chicago to pay a little visit to Mayor Rambo, watch out for the cops who bring home the gasoline and your apartment becomes a crime scene. I wanna know who, I wanna know who, I wanna know who is the terrorist? I wanna know who, I wanna know who, I wanna know who is the terrorist? Meanwhile in Afghanistan, a village has been hit, a wedding party transformed into a pit, transformed into a graveyard for children, women, men, transformed into a graveyard for empire. Again, the place where terrorists are born, with every drone attack, a graveyard for the Midwest boys never coming back, a graveyard for democracy, a graveyard for ideals, a place to bury all the hearts of anyone who feels. And at the meeting in Chicago, they'll talk of women's rights, they'll talk about the terrorists they've got within their sights, the terrorists abroad, the terrorists so near, the terrorists who grew up in a suburb around here. I wanna know who, I wanna know who, I wanna know who is the terrorist? I wanna know who, I wanna know who, I wanna know who is the terrorist? Meanwhile, in Afghanistan, more protesters shot down by NATO troops who had to show they run this town, by NATO troops who have to show they are in control. While it all comes crashing down on the countries they stole. NATO troops committing war crimes every day, ruling over nations in the old imperial way. Running generals in Chicago with their satellites and tanks take orders from their bosses. The oil men and banks taking orders from their bosses, looking suitably enraged at terror, foreign and domestic, real or staged, never led on by informants who was pissed off by the war. The terrorists are meeting behind closed doors. I wanna know who, I wanna know who, I wanna know who is the terrorist? I wanna know who, I wanna know who, I wanna know who is the terrorist? I wanna know who, I wanna know who, I wanna know